Bangladesh is in turmoil. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has resigned. Her departure follows weeks of violent anti-government protests. The demonstrations have shaken the nation. The unrest reached a boiling point when protesters stormed Hasina's official residence in Dhaka. Images of the chaos were broadcast around the world. Vehicles were set ablaze, a potent symbol of the anger engulfing the nation. Protesters also vandalized a statue of Hasina's father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He is a revered figure in Bangladesh, seen as the father of the nation. His legacy is now caught in the crossfire. The protests were sparked by a seemingly innocuous issue: job quotas. Students took to the streets demanding their removal, but the demonstrations quickly morphed into something bigger, something more profound. They became a lightning rod for a multitude of grievances. Corruption, poverty, inequality. These issues have long simmered beneath the surface of Bangladeshi society. Hasina's resignation is a testament to the depth of public anger. The protests have spread like wildfire, engulfing cities across the nation. The situation is volatile, unpredictable. Bangladesh is at a crossroads. The violence has taken a devastating toll. At least 91 people were killed in clashes on Sunday alone. This marks the deadliest day in Bangladesh's recent history. Among the dead are 13 police officers. The government has responded with an iron fist, imposing an indefinite nationwide curfew. The move is designed to quell the unrest, but it has also plunged the nation into darkness. Fear and uncertainty grip the streets. The death toll is a stark reminder of the human cost of this crisis. With Hasina's resignation, a significant power vacuum has emerged in the political landscape of Bangladesh. The military has taken center stage, deploying troops across major cities to maintain order and prevent further unrest. The army chief has vowed to establish an interim government, promising a swift return to stability and order. He has called for calm, urging students and other protesters to end the violence and return to their homes. He has promised to address their demands, including calls for political reforms and greater transparency in governance. Assuring them that the military will not fire upon them, the army chief emphasized the importance of peaceful dialogue. The international community is watching closely, with many nations expressing concern over the unfolding crisis. The U.S. Embassy in Dhaka has issued a stark warning to its citizens, advising them to seek shelter and consider leaving the country due to the escalating violence. The situation is simply too dangerous, with nightly curfews and heightened security measures in place. Dhaka's main airport has been temporarily closed, disrupting travel plans and leaving many stranded. A sign of the chaos engulfing the nation, the streets of Dhaka are filled with tension and uncertainty as the country navigates this turbulent period. International leaders are holding emergency meetings, discussing potential interventions and support for Bangladesh. Humanitarian aid is being prepared, with relief organizations mobilizing to assist those affected by the crisis. Citizens are glued to their screens, anxiously following the latest developments and hoping for a peaceful resolution. Negotiations between military and civilian leaders are ongoing, with hopes that a compromise can be reached to restore peace and stability. Amidst the turmoil, there are glimmers of hope as communities come together, praying for a brighter future and a return to normalcy. Section 5. Hasina's claims and the shadow of authoritarianism. In the days leading up to her resignation, Hasina struck a defiant tone. She stood firm in her beliefs, unwavering in her stance, and addressed the nation with a mixture of resolve and urgency. Her speeches were filled with a sense of determination, as she sought to justify her actions and policies. She accused the student protesters of terrorism, claiming they were attempting to destabilize the nation. Her words painted a picture of chaos and anarchy, suggesting that the protests were not merely about grievances but were part of a larger, more sinister plot. She urged citizens to rise up and crush the dissent. Her call to action was clear and unequivocal, as she sought to rally her supporters and maintain control over the situation. She portrayed the protesters as enemies of the state, urging the public to see them as a threat to national stability. Her words did little to calm the situation. Instead of quelling the unrest, her rhetoric seemed to add fuel to the fire. The streets were filled with even more protesters, their resolve strengthened by her defiance. In fact, they may have inflamed it. The confrontations between protesters and police grew more intense, with neither side willing to back down. The atmosphere was charged with tension, and the potential for violence loomed large. Hasina's rule has been dogged by accusations of authoritarianism. Her critics have long pointed to her heavy-handed tactics and her unwillingness to tolerate dissent. They argue that her approach to governance has been marked by a disregard for democratic principles and human rights. Critics point to her crackdown on dissent, her muzzling of the media, and her government's human rights abuses. These actions have drawn widespread condemnation, both domestically and internationally. The media, once a vibrant and critical voice, has been stifled under her rule. These concerns have only grown louder in recent years. As the protests have intensified, so too have the calls for greater accountability and transparency. The international community has taken notice, with many expressing alarm at the situation in Bangladesh. Hasina's resignation has done little to quell them. While her departure from office may have been seen as a victory for the protesters, the underlying issues remain unresolved. The future of Bangladesh hangs in the balance, as the nation grapples with the legacy of her rule and the path forward. Section 6. A divided public reacts. Hasina's resignation has been met with mixed reactions. Some Bangladeshis are celebrating, seeing her departure as a victory for democracy. They hope it will usher in a new era of freedom and prosperity. Others are more cautious. They fear the military's involvement, worried that it could be a sign of things to come. They remember Bangladesh's long history of military coups, its struggles to establish democratic rule. The nation is deeply divided. Only time will tell what the future holds. Section 7. Allegations of brutality, a muffled cry for help. Despite the curfew and the military presence, reports of police brutality continue to emerge. Witnesses describe scenes of chaos and violence. Protesters are being beaten, tear-gassed, and shot at. Hospitals are overwhelmed with the injured. Human rights groups have condemned the government's response, accusing them of using excessive force. The government denies these allegations, but the evidence tells a different story. The internet shutdown has made it difficult to verify information, but the few images and videos that have emerged paint a grim picture. Section 8. A digital blackout descends. In an attempt to control the narrative, the government has imposed a near-total internet shutdown. This drastic measure has sent shockwaves throughout the nation, affecting millions of people who rely on the internet for their daily lives. The move has plunged Bangladesh into a digital blackout. The bustling city of Dhaka, usually alive with the hum of online activity, now stands eerily silent, its digital heartbeat stilled. Social media platforms are inaccessible, news websites are down. People are finding themselves cut off from their friends, family, and the world at large. The familiar pings and notifications have been replaced by a deafening silence. Communication channels have been severed. The once interconnected society is now grappling with isolation, unable to share information or seek help through their usual digital means. The government claims the shutdown is necessary to prevent the spread of misinformation and incitements to violence. They argue that in these turbulent times, controlling the flow of information is crucial to maintaining order and public safety. But critics see it as a blatant attempt to stifle dissent and control the flow of information. They argue that this is a direct attack on freedom of speech and an effort to silence opposition voices. The internet shutdown has left the people of Bangladesh in the dark, cut off from the outside world. The frustration and anger are palpable as citizens struggle to adapt to this new reality, questioning how long this digital silence will last and what it means for their future. Section 9. The world responds, a call for calm. The international community has expressed deep concern about the situation in Bangladesh. The United Nations, the European Union, and numerous countries have issued statements calling for calm and restraint. They have urged all parties to engage in dialogue and find a peaceful solution to the crisis. Human rights groups have called for an independent investigation into the violence and for those responsible to be held accountable. The world is watching, hoping that Bangladesh can find a way out of this crisis. Section 10. The long road ahead. Bangladesh faces a long and uncertain road ahead. The country is deeply divided, its people traumatized by the violence. The economy is in tatters, the political landscape is in flux, the military's role remains unclear. Will it relinquish power to a civilian government, or will it seek to maintain its grip on the country? These are the questions that haunt Bangladesh's future. One thing is certain: the road to recovery will be long and arduous. Section 11. Bangladesh at a crossroads. Bangladesh stands at a crossroads. The choices it makes in the coming days, weeks, and months will determine its destiny. Will it succumb to authoritarianism, or will it emerge as a beacon of democracy in a troubled region? The world is watching, hoping for the best but fearing the worst. The stakes are high. The future of Bangladesh hangs in the balance.